That's cool. You're always here right away. Nice. I don't know if I don't know if anybody gets notifications, honestly. But that's good. I'm glad. I think you're always the first one to be here, which is pretty cool. Thank you. Yeah, brought this cheap little Yamaha today. See, that's why I like this place on Saturday nights. I'm all alone. Nobody's gonna tell me, don't bring a guitar. Nobody's gonna tell me anything. It's just me, the light. That's it. Oh, and there's some beef jerky. As a matter of fact, I figure I should take some of this beef jerky. Just don't tell anybody. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about YouTube's favorite subject today, which is chemtrails. It's their favorite thing in the world because the moment that word is even said, there's a disclaimer on the bottom of every video immediately claiming that it's all contrails. So you don't even have a voice regarding chemtrails. There's no option for you to talk about it because it's immediately dismissed as something else, which if that's not depressing, I don't know what is. But I also want to talk about Mandela effects related. So I never put the two and two together, and I still don't necessarily do. But I think there might be a connection between the Mandela effect and chemtrails, possibly, because airplanes or jets in general have been Mandela affected, and I'll discuss that later. You're visiting family out of state and it's horrible? Oh, wow. Yeah. I saw something really odd today, and I've been seeing them more and more lately. Chemtrails they've been changing over the years. They're not the same. They're not the same as they once were. They've been kind of, it used to be really blatant and, oh, hold on, no. It still is like that. It's still all over the sky. It still looks like vomit in the sky. However, it seems like some of them are more covert or more hidden than others, possibly. Hey, Galaxies, how's it going? Thanks for being here. I'm just getting started here. I just need to fix my brain so I could talk coherently. Just give me a moment. Brain is fixed. Anyway, hey. Yeah, so basically what I saw today was like a black line in the sky, and the jet would sort of it would fly along the black line. So you would see this really obvious black line in the sky, and the jet would go exactly where that line is. And I've been seeing more and more of that. I mean, basically, it's a reverse chemtrail. So it's like the trail starts before the plane. It's in front of the plane as opposed to it being behind the plane. Oh, hey, Loyalty, what's happening? And these are just the strangest ones. Keep in mind, I don't know how many of you guys know. I used to really buy into, his sort of explanation of what's going on. And no disrespect to him, I still have a ton of respect for Dane Wigington. So like I said in the post earlier, I just got his alert. I just got his alert because he released a Saturday night podcast. It's a funny synchronicity. Like I said, I used to exchange emails with him. He would send me these, like literally hundreds of flyers of, geoengineering stuff that I would like walk around and put on cars and in front of doors and stuff. I'm like, the thing is that there's just no chance that it could possibly just be exclusively for weather warfare or geoengineering purposes. I think there is something much deeper behind them at this point. But for many years, I've held that sort of very narrow conventional view as to what is going on up there. And one of the things that changed my perspective is one, jets being Mandela affected. And like I said before, I'm going to wait till I explain that. The other thing is changes in airplane flight in general, like how a flight is, and this is where it's gonna get really freaking weird. But the way a flight feels and looks has completely changed. So that on its own is a Mandela effect, at least for me, or a personal glitch. And I'm not alone in this. And I really want to connect it to the trails. How? I don't know, but you've seen the black lines. I had a very strange vision. Oh, tell me about it. Yeah, I've been seeing the black lines more and more, and less of the conventional trails. Like the direction, not necessarily the direction, greedy, more like it doesn't even feel like I'm in the sky while I'm flying. I don't know how else I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous. First of all, I've been on too many flights to count. Consider me lucky, I don't know, but I must have been on 100+ flights throughout my life, I would say easily. And I noticed a steady change over the last few years as to like the perception of being in a flight, like being in the air, the way it feels and looks completely changed. And I don't know if you guys know about the Mandela effect related to the Boeing jets, how the engines used to be directly under the wings. Now the engines are sticking out very far. And this happened, I think, in 2018, when there was a big controversy with Boeing. It was all over the news where they were talking about defective jets. And that was the exact time frame where the change occurred with the jets being directly under the wing to now really sticking out way in front of the wing. If that's not a Mandela effect for you guys, and I'm sorry, I know it's not one of the most like well known in the circle, but it is talked about. It is talked about if you ask Brian Stavely, if you ask all kinds of YouTube channels. And yeah, when I'm flying, like the change happened when I'm flying. So it's I talked about this with Emily Moyer too, actually, because she feels the same thing. She feels like this perceptual change during flight, where, for example, 20 years ago, I don't know, 15 years ago, it felt more like you were actually, I know this sounds ridiculous. It felt more like you were actually in the sky. Like where now it feels like you're being simulated in a flight. again, and it's all related to the Mandela effect of this entire world being weird and fake looking to us, Mandela affected in general. So flight is no different. It completely changed. Where takeoff used to be, you take off and you like really felt it in your gut. Now takeoff is like, oh, how did I get into the sky? I mean, people will say, oh, well, jets have improved, right? Technology's better, so it's not as bumpy anymore. No, it's not that at all. It's some kind of total perceptual change as to how a flight. It's all weird. It's impossible to explain unless you've experienced this. But my point is for some reason, I think there might be some connection with the chemtrails and that perceptual change. So Loyalty, you said I was captured by this tribal group of people, but I noticed they were all different cultures, and they told me they were the survivors of 3 sun events. Whoa. Like a coronal mass ejection, basically a CME, as in a sun event. I don't want to bring up iPad Go 2, but that's the first thing that comes to mind, the end of iPad Go 2. Agreed on the timeline. Yeah. So Texas Dan, you know what I'm talking about. You agreed on the timeline changes to modern jets. So yeah, you know how the engines are completely off. And you could look this up, guys. Just look up articles from back a few years back. There was this big controversy specifically about Boeing jets, how they were out of balance and how they were flying all wrong and crooked and how they're having all these problems. Suddenly, this literally came through overnight, where 1 minute everything was fine, and then the next day, like Boeing was getting almost like getting sued, and there was all these defective jets that they're like almost gonna recall or something. It was this crazy story. And I think that's that moment when the jet engines changed from being in the logical place where they should be, which is directly under the wings, to sticking out like a sore thumb in front of the wings. This guy named, he talks about it a lot actually. His dad was a airline engineer, or he built airplanes, and he talks about this Mandela effect. I'm trying to remember his name. Man, I haven't seen him in a while though. He lives in Japan though. A white guy who lives in Japan. Dang it. Oh well. Interesting. So, and you notice some of the surface of the earth was burnt out. Yeah. I think that's, I guess it's part of these cycles, right? These sort of cyclical cosmic events, I assume, right? That sort of resets, right? The great resets or whatever. I guess maybe that's what they really mean by the great reset, even though if Klaus Schwab gets the reset he wants, I think we would be better off with an explosion from the sun than his idea of a great reset. To be honest, I'll take the sun instead, because his great reset sounds like hell. I worked in an airfield. Planes have definitely changed. For one, they use compression bladders. Interesting. Oh wow. Yeah, that's see. Well, you even worked with them, so that's even more validation right there. Yeah, there's definitely been a change. Absolutely. But anyway, my question to you guys is, what do you think, now that I'm going to go back to chemtrails now, what do you think chemtrails are? What do you think their purpose is? Again, no disrespect to Geoengineering Watch or anything. I just think he really has this sort of tunnel vision view that this is climate engineering, this is weather warfare. It can't possibly be anything else. Period. End of story. I don't know why, like, you would close yourself off to something like that. Yes, I understand he really studies, he really puts in a ton of effort to get as much real data as possible. And I'm not denying that there is geoengineering and climate engineering and weather warfare. No, like, I don't think anybody can deny that at this point. Weather warfare has been ongoing since the 40s. This isn't anything new, but I think it's much more than just weather warfare is what I'm trying to say. That's kind of my point. I know I said that like 15 times already. Sorry. All right. So I worked in which caused the plane to basically be able to hover. The plane to be able to hover. Whoa, that's interesting. I think it may be more than one thing. I used to listen to him, but he's just too much. Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. He's kind of just a little bit depressing. I mean, I'm depressing too, but that guy is like, the world's ending, period, end of story. I also say the world's ending, but I would say, hey, but maybe there's hope. You know, they seem to be artificial grid. Oh, yes, artificial grid lines. Is that why the planes are the jets are flying along those black lines? It's almost like, yeah, it does kind of feel and look like there's like a net in the sky, right? Like there's some kind of electronic net, and these planes are somehow being guided by this bubble thing in the sky that they're flying. That's what I mean by the perceptual change of flight. When I'm in the air now, the last time I was on a plane was in October, I think, or November. And that's what it feels like. It feels like instead of the engine pushing you, flight now to me feels like we're being pulled, or like something magnetic is pulling us into something instead of thrust or momentum bringing us to a place. It's like something magnetic is almost levitating us to. Okay, I know I'm really sounding out there, but again, if you never experienced or you don't know what I'm talking about, then it's going to be impossible to really describe. But it's changed. It has changed. And me and Emily Moyer, we discussed this for a long time, and we're both in agreement over something changed with flights in general. So Texas Danny says, I believe it may be into H2O and its management in the atmosphere while the Earth seems to be in a transformation. I don't know exactly how. The water is a prime modification tool. Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, I really like that. Management in the atmosphere. Yeah, that's totally plausible. So, especially if there's something up there, or if there's like a problem with the ozone layer, or they're trying to hide something, right? What they're trying to manage is they're probably trying to manage or prevent people from suffering the consequences of these changes, or mitigate the atmospheric changes so that people don't notice it as much or are not affected as negatively by it as much, possibly. Tie into H2O management in the atmosphere. Yeah, or what if what if the Earth is completely transforming, right, into something new, like we've been talking about for years, and they're trying to hide that, or like mask it, or prevent people from seeing as much of that as possible. I think there is a possibility there, like a rail system in the sky. Yeah, you must be reading my mind. Everything you're saying tonight, I'm like, whoa, yeah, you got it. Yeah, it's like a rail system in the sky. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're on tracks. You're flying and you're like on like a maglev, like a monorail or something, like a levitating train, and you're just like gliding along the sky. And then the earth looks all weird from below. It looks all, it just looks odd. It just looks odd. I don't know how to explain it. It just doesn't look the same at all. Um, I'll crack a joke in between mentioning we're we're fooked. Nice. So do you think the toxins being dropped all over us is coming from something other than the jets? Oh no, I think that's part of it. I think I think there's, it's multi-purpose, definitely. So there's an aspect to it that's geoengineering, there's weather warfare, there's cloud seeding, there's farming related stuff, there's, of course, they're dispersing particulates possibly to test different diseases on the guinea pigs of Earth. And they have admitted to doing that, like literally, I think like back in the 50s, they sprayed some sort of super toxic airborne disease over San Francisco, I believe. I got to look up the exact details, but it's declassified and officially in the records that this happened. And not one time, not two times. There was multiple instances of this where the government admitted to spraying the air with either toxic chemicals or toxic airborne diseases. So I think that is one component to a much bigger picture that's multifaceted. There's probably 30 or 40 different reasons why we're seeing those trails in the sky. Some of those planes might not even be planes. Some of those jets might be UFOs masking themselves as jets, for example, or some kind of entities. They could be hiding. Check this out. What if they're creating like this magnetic layer or this dome over us to prevent us from seeing an alien war in the sky? How about that for an idea? Far-fetched? I think real life is way weirder than science fiction. So to me, it's not far-fetched at all. We already know people have captured countless bizarre things around the sun, whatever they are. So, and I'm talking about the quote unquote real sun somewhere over there, not the white thing we see in the sky. Loyalty is bringing it tonight. Nice. Yeah. So, Texas Danny, you're saying that I believe the war crisis may involve the fact that my eyes, that all major bodies of water are shrinking. All major bodies of water are shrinking. Interesting. Yeah, I've always been kind of on the fence, like if the earth is expanding or if it's shrinking. I honestly can't tell anymore. Like sometimes it feels like it is shrinking, but sometimes it feels like it's expanding like crazy. Maybe it's both. The sky is constantly getting weirder. It sure is. Yes, it is. Off subject, but is anyone thinking the moon is in weird looking places? I'm glad you brought up the moon. The other night, I couldn't capture it on camera. I was actually going to make a video, but the moon looked freaking green. Like it was literally in green color. And I'm like looking around, is this like pollution in the sky? I'm like, why is the moon green? And I'm like, like the sky looked really clear, so I don't know. But literally the light emanating from the moon was like this green color, and it was just so strange. But like, again, my camera sucks, so you wouldn't be able to tell that it was even green. I wish I would have captured that though. Not far-fetched, nothing's far-fetched, right? I think all of us here agree that reality is stranger than fiction. Whatever the hell is going on, you couldn't make it up in any sci-fi movie. And no matter how weird that sci-fi movie is, it's weirder out there for sure. I have been saying to people that they're tempting us. You mean tempting or taunting? Do you mean taunting? Correct. Its movements are strange, surreal, and unnatural. Yeah, let me see if I could spot the moon right now. Actually, I'm just curious. Unnatural is the right word for both the sun and the moon. Quote unquote, sun and moon. Oh, there it is. Yeah, you guys can't see it, but it looks, right now, it kind of looks like the crescent is off like always. The crescent never looks right. Never, not on a single night. It looks farther away than usual. It already looks really tiny and far away. But right now it looks like it's incredibly far away. Like it's traveled thousands of miles further into the atmosphere or something. It's weird, but at the same time it looks really close. I don't know how to do this trick. How do they make something look if this is something artificial, how do they make it look so close and so far away at the same time? I don't get how that's. It's some really trippy optical illusion, for sure. Yeah, it looks weird for sure. What does tenting mean? I see everyone else dedicated to ignoring everything, like throwing a sheet over a cage. Oh, like a tent. Oh, oh, tenting. Oh, okay, my bad. Well, duh. That should have been obvious. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of what that is kind of what it feels like. I like that analogy. Like it's like somebody's putting a canopy over us, or like some kind of, some kind of weird grid formation, or I don't know what the hell it is. It's weird though. Dave Summers, how you doing? I noticed the moon changes before I knew about ME. Really? That's interesting. Since we're talking about, one of the first things I noticed, period, was the trails. I started noticing them like probably in 2008. That was actually one of the first things that kind of made me turn to start researching this stuff. I was walking down I was living in New York. I was walking down the street with a friend in Brooklyn, and they were spraying the sky. And I'm like, hey, do you notice that? And he's like, oh yeah, those are jets. Big deal, JFK airport's right here. And I'm like, no. But don't you notice like the contrails like becoming massive, and they linger in the sky the entire day, and it looks like the particulates fall down at the end of the day. And he actually got kind of curious, and he's like, maybe. That was like that was a really clear memory of that experience right there. That's interesting how you notice the moon. I think, Dave, many of us might have noticed the moon and sun first before, but not necessarily. I'll tell you, I noticed the changes to the sun and moon. I can't give an exact time frame, or I'll just say like 2011. It was approximately 2011. That's the year I always go back to. 2011 seems to be a really big year for me, where everything just sort of shifted. And I think that's when I started noticing these weird things the most. But chemtrails, definitely all the way back 2008, maybe even earlier, I started noticing those. But they've been around forever, actually. The moon and the sun seem to be swinging like a pendulum in a diagonal pattern. Interesting, yeah. They seem to be swinging, yes. The moon is really going to be revealed as something super strange, much more than we imagine. I actually totally see that. Texas Danny. I totally see that coming. It's going to be revealed as something stranger. It's some kind of like, I don't know, machine or like, no, not the soul reincarnation trap. Like maybe it's a spaceship. That's what I see. Like it's just gonna like start glowing in colors, and it'll be like revealed that it's just been a spaceship this whole time, like the Death Star from from Star Wars or something. Like, oh, it's a Death Star. That's what it was the whole time. I could totally like would not be surprised by that. The moon is definitely not what we're told. That's for sure. I have to shut off my observations of the environment to cope daily. Birds and insects. Birds, yeah, they've been extremely quiet here as well. Normally the birds have been. Normally they're going crazy and singing all the time. Now, if I'm lucky, I hear one or two birds for an entire day. The insects are silent. It's the same thing over here. Same thing. It's been really odd. I don't hear any crickets. I don't see any grasshoppers. Nothing. Nothing. It's just weird. It's usually the other way around. Quantum stuff. There are no critters roaming around. Even where you are, I guess, is this a universal thing or something? What happened to the critters? Don't tell me that they're all just dying. I know many of them are dying off and going extinct, but they're not all dying. There's a lot missing from the picture. What I don't get is these people don't seem to notice anything. Zippo is glaring. Don't seem to notice, don't seem to care. It's been ongoing. It's not like this is something new. This has been ongoing for years and years and years, and they still don't notice what's right in front of their damn face. Just open your eyes. There's something super weird going on that's weirder than any fiction movie, and you guys don't notice. And then just the last 2-3 years alone, we've had one bizarre narrative after another without any breaks in between, from the crazy earth changes to weird stories in the news to weird stuff in the sky to it just never ends. It's gotta meet a point. There's gotta be a crescendo here. There's gotta be a point where this blows up, figuratively speaking, maybe literally, I don't know. Like it just can't go on like this, all weird. It's like heading into something. The weirdness is becoming something. It's gotta reveal itself to why it's being weird. Okay? I hope that made sense. You guys make me feel, yeah, you make me feel better too, for real. Quantum stuff. I was just saying this to my mom earlier and feeling so upset. Yeah, is your mom unable to see what's going on? My mom kind of, I don't know, 50-50. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. She has noticed, like in terms of the sun, my mom has noticed that it is a lot hotter on her skin. And I did discuss that with her before, how like it burns her skin when she's outside, stuff like that. Even I've talked to people who don't know anything, like just the most normie of normies actually, who say that the sun is burning their skin. Like imagine the most normie ever made. Did I just say ever made? Ever born? Is that a word? It's been a long day. The normies will notice once this hits a crescendo, once this reaches its peak, whatever that is, all the normies that ever lived, they're going to notice what's going on. Everyone. I'm telling you, the whole damn world. You're closer to the action of ETs. I can sense them, but I don't have anything in the way of, yeah, I can sense them too. I could definitely sense like an alien presence consistently, like throughout the day and night. There's like something alien in the sky, like you could feel them for sure. I would totally agree with that. And they do not want to know. No, they don't. They don't want to know. It's easier, that old saying, ignorance is bliss, right? And I used to agree with that, but I don't. Ignorance is definitely not bliss. Ignorance is slavery. Ignorance is your own enslavement. People just shrug everything off. They sure do. They sure do, yeah. Either that or, they're just too busy. They're too busy, right? They're always the busy, busy bees. They don't have time for that. Chasing that money, chasing that, chasing this. Hustling, hustling. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you got to make time. You got to make time for that contemplation too. Even when I worked, much busier jobs, I still made time for that contemplation myself, for that inner work as much as I could. Exceedingly strong, willfully self-deception. That is a profound statement right there. She's totally reset. She gets it completely. Oh, well, that's good. Oh, you're venting to her. Gotcha. So that's good. Like, I do that. Yeah, I do that with my mom too. I tell her, about all this weird stuff. I feel like I could talk to her openly as well. So I get that. Like, I don't mind that I'm not saying she has to agree with everything I say. Not at all. I'm just happy she at least sees like some of the things, I'm talking about. But, as of late, all she could really focus on is the war, like so many other people. For some reason, Iran attacked a U.S. consulate in Iraq today. I don't know what that's going to lead to, but I just thought that it was rather odd that they're like 2 days away from their nuclear deal or whatever, and they attack a U.S. base. I don't know if you guys heard about that. They shot a bunch of missiles, a U.S. base in Iraq. I don't know. Sorry, I got off topic there. Seems like the war drags you in, doesn't it? War always sucks you in. It's like a parasite. Once that momentum of violence starts, it like draws your energy into it. It really does. You're fortunate, yeah. I know I'm fortunate she listens to me and knows I'm not a total nutjob. My adult son does not see it. That sucks, Mackenzie. Yeah. Well, what can we do? We can't please everybody, right? Can't please everybody. It's just how life is. You just got to do what you can and then hope sooner or later they will come to that realization. Definitely no sense in forcing anything on anyone. Or I've kind of given up. Like I used to be really passionate and like make my point, and I've really sort of calmed down since then for the most part. Let's go for 5 more minutes, guys. 5 more minutes, okay. California still shows massive incoming quantum changes. Gulf of California is still opening up. The valley is really active. I'm gonna take notice of that stuff. Texas Danny on my drive to Phoenix tomorrow. And it's a drive I've done 500 million times. So I know every square inch along the way there. So I'm going to take notice of anything I see as potential changes or earth changes, which definitely are there for sure. Let's see. We just talk about birds and flowers. I mean, talking about birds and flowers is still better than yelling at each other. I mean, Yeah, Arizona. Well, I'm speaking of Arizona. That's one of the biggest Mandela effects for me, or I guess you would call it a glitch or personal glitch, was in terms of changes to terrain or the earth. One of the biggest changes I've noticed was Arizona and the saguaro cactuses completely different. Their color has changed. Saguaro cactuses have always been very dark green, like as dark green as you can get. Saguaro cactuses, I'm talking about those very tall cactuses, the prickly cactuses, I'm sure you've all seen. They are now this lime green color. They look completely off. Not only that, the whole desert has changed. There's a lot more flowers blooming now. A lot more everywhere, year round. Year round. It makes no sense. Like it looks completely different. Um, and these weird flower blooms, even here in my nearest desert here, east of San Diego, we have these weird super blooms of flowers that were never really existed before, and then they just started appearing. I'll tell you, around 2016, 2017, these super blooms of flowers just like inundate the entire desert. I mean, it's kind of pretty. Like I kind of like it. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. Like the whole desert blooms, but it used to be the case that there was maybe small patches of flower blooms, not like entire landscapes. And not only are entire landscapes blooming, it's year round too. It's not just in the spring. Like there's probably a super bloom right now in the desert. Well, I mean, it is almost spring, but there's probably one in January. Let's just say that. It's just weird. It's super weird. Like all this stuff. Freaking cartoon world, I'm telling you. All right. My mom is plugged into the Matrix, unfortunately, but I get it. She's older and afraid of anything challenging her viewpoint. Yeah, yeah, it's the position of many people, unfortunately. Silver lining, at least you have him and he talks to you. Hey, that's good. Yeah. No, I mean, it's good you have a relationship with your son and stuff. Um, let's see here. Love is what I give. All you can do, we can get through to almost. Yeah, that's right. Love is what you can do. That's what we could give. You're right. Absolutely. Great point. And that's a great conclusion to this to tonight's live stream, everyone. I'll see you at that weird ghost town in a couple of days, everyone. You have a good night. And let's see what it's like. That should be interesting. Have a good night, everyone.